The town had made up its mind before the sun finished climbing over the grain silos. By the time the church bell rang its slow mid-morning call, the word had already settled into every corner of the place. Liar. It passed from mouth to mouth like something solid, something proven. It lived in the pauses between sentences, in the way people leaned closer to one another and lowered their voices, just enough to feel righteous. She felt it the moment she stepped onto Main Street. The boards beneath her boots creaked, loud in the quiet, and a few heads turned before quickly looking away. Others didn't bother pretending. They watched her openly, eyes sharp with judgment, mouths set in thin lines. She held her shoulders straight anyway, even though every muscle in her body wanted to fold inward and disappear. She had told the truth. That was the cruelest part of it. Her dress was plain and mended too many times. The fabric faded where the sun had eaten it away. A faint bruise still yellowed along her wrist, hidden poorly beneath her sleeve. She hadn't meant to come here today. She'd hoped the sheriff would handle it quietly, that the town would let it fade into rumor and then into nothing. But the town never let go of things that made it uncomfortable. Men gathered near the courthouse steps, boots planted wide, hats pushed back. Women lingered near the storefronts, pretending to examine bolts of cloth or jars of candy while listening to every word. Children sensed the tension and kept their distance, whispering to each other with the instinctive cruelty of those who hadn't yet learned restraint. She stopped near the square, hands clasped tightly in front of her, knuckles white. Across the street stood the rancher. Everyone noticed him, whether they admitted it or not. He leaned against the hitching post like he belonged there, like the town itself had shaped itself around his presence. His land fed half the county. His word had ended arguments and started friendships. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. But when he spoke, people listened. Today, he said nothing. She didn't look at him, but she felt him the way you feel a storm gathering behind your back. She knew he'd been riding that night. She knew he'd been close. She knew he'd heard something, maybe everything, and still he hadn't come forward. The sheriff stepped out onto the courthouse steps, clearing his throat. "All right," he said, forcing calm into his voice. "Let's keep this orderly." Orderly, the word felt like a joke. He looked at her not unkindly, but with the tired eyes of a man who wanted a problem to go away. "You understand why we're here?" She nodded. Her mouth was dry. "Yes." "You made an accusation," the sheriff continued. "A serious one." "I told what happened," she said quietly. A ripple moved through the crowd. Someone muttered. Someone else laughed under their breath. The banker stood near the front, arms crossed protectively in front of his chest. His son was beside him, clean-shaven, confident, his expression almost bored. He didn't look at her at all. He studied the sky, the buildings, anything but her face. The sheriff gestured gently. "You have a chance now to reconsider, to say you were mistaken." Her heart pounded so hard she wondered if others could hear it. "I wasn't mistaken." The banker's mouth twisted. "My boy's reputation doesn't outweigh the truth," she said, surprising even herself. A murmur rose, sharper this time. The sheriff lifted his hands. "Enough." Then he turned, slowly, inevitably, toward the rancher. "You were riding near the cottonwoods that night." The rancher straightened slightly but didn't step forward. "You see anything?" the sheriff asked. The air seemed to hold its breath. This was the moment. Everyone knew it. If the rancher spoke for her, the town would have to listen. If he didn't, she would carry this alone for the rest of her life. The rancher stared at a spot on the ground, jaw tight. In his mind, the night replayed itself in sharp, merciless detail, the moonlight, the sudden panic in his horse, the sound of a woman's voice breaking off too quickly. He remembered gripping the reins, feeling the weight of choice settle into his bones. He remembered turning away. "I didn't see anything," he said. The words landed like a door slamming shut. Her breath left her in a rush. For a moment, the world tilted. She caught herself, nails biting into her palms. "There it is," someone said. "That settles it." Relief washed through the crowd, ugly and eager. The sheriff nodded, grateful. "Then there's nothing more to be done." The banker's son finally smiled. The rancher pushed off the post and walked away without looking back. No one followed him. No one stopped him. She stood there alone, The lie pressed on to her like a brand she could never scrape off. The town dispersed around her, satisfied, already moving on to other concerns. She didn't cry, not then. She simply turned and walked out of the square, carrying the truth by herself, while the man who could have changed everything rode back to his land, telling himself he had chosen peace. The town slept easy that night. The cost would come later,